you a private chat.
Sure. Okay. All right. So welcome to the Scary Sundays to Boundless Mondays call. We've got Yushi and we've got Brittany joining us. And I also have some questions as well that were pre-submitted by Annika and by Lilith. So Yushi just asked a really, really good question about the membership. Yushi, do you mind just repeating that? And then everyone can kind of share in that answer.
Oh, absolutely. So my question was, I signed up for the waiting list. I cannot wait to join Boundless, but I just wanted to know how much support I would get before that, because I'm looking, there's a lot of resources that are offered on your website. And it's, it's a lot of information. And I was also wondering if with the human design, you discuss the gene keys, because I don't want to necessarily reach out to you too much if I'm not a part of your program. But I'm so excited about joining. So I wanted to just be clear on how much, support was offered.
Thank you. And thank you for your integrity and questioning those kind of where that line is, because that's really helpful for me as well to know kind of what support you need. So we were saying before we started recording that, for instance, I received a message from someone earlier that said, this has just happened and I feel anxiety around this. And so if you're feeling something, if you need some guidance with something, I'm more than happy at this stage to help you through it, because I don't want to say to this person that reached out to me, okay, well, if you're having anxiety about this, just pop a pin in it and I'll come back to you in a couple of weeks, when we've kind of gone through this kind of car opening phase. That doesn't feel good to me. So if there is something that's on your mind or something that's happening right now and you just want to say, oh my goodness, Becca, like this has just happened and I don't know what to do, or I just need someone who gets it and just to listen to me, I'm more than happy to do that. Having said that, I can help you once the Boundless membership opens and once we all come together. I can help you at a much deeper level on those weekly coaching calls that we'll have inside the membership, because that's when my energy is really present in that container for you, and we can go over your chart and we can kind of have a look at where these fears are coming from, or for this person earlier, where that anxiety is coming from, and how can we switch the story. Because although this is a membership about transitioning it out of your 9-to-5, it's really about you and your energetics, because that's what's going to kind of prompt the journey, rather than I can help with kind of practical things, but it's really that understanding your energetics first that we're going to go through. So, and as far as that's Brittany. Brittany's baby is the cutest in the whole world. Hi Brittany, hi Raya. Oh, she's so cute. And as far as where to start, she's the cutest. As far as where to start, I would say start where feels good to you. So there is a lot of resources, and if you have other things going on at the moment, it's a lot of information. So just use your intuition and look at the information and go, I'm curious about that. Let's just learn a bit more about that. Like make it fun, because I've found with human design and gene keys, if it's too overwhelming, you just go that I just can't begin to deal with that. Yeah. So when you're reading through it, whatever feels good to you and whatever kind of like sparks your curiosity, just read about it. And then if you want to move on to something else, you can. If not, you can read a bit more about that. And then once we're inside the membership, you can say to me, look, my conscious sun, that's what I'm really excited about. Or my vocation gate, can we explore that first? Because it's like a coaching container rather than a teaching container. So take the pressure off and just have a look and use that intuition and go, yeah, that feels interesting to me. I'm just going to play with that and learn a bit more about it while you have all these other things going on as well.
Awesome. That sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Just experiment with it and have fun with it. Hey, Brittany, how are you?
I'm sorry, are you talking to me?
Yeah, I was just saying, me and Yushi were just saying hi to you and Raya.
Oh, say hi, baby. Can you say hi?
Hey.
Say hi. Hi.
Oh, hi, Addie. Hello, gorgeous. How are you?
My name's Addison Rose.
Is it really? Well, that's a pretty name.
That's
That's
a pretty
very
name.
cute name.
My gosh, my whole family. The most well-developed personal development childhood experience ever.
Usually Brittany does human design and parenting, so that's kind of her area of expertise. So
how wonderful.
yeah.
So I may need you in about 10 years.
Push Annie Jen people.
Nice. I like it.
We've been, aren't we?
I was just saying that I do have a couple of questions that are pre-submitted, but as you, Brittany and Yushi, you're on the call. If you have anything that you want me to go through, you're very welcome to let me know now, because you're kind of first in the queue, so to speak.
Brittany, you want to go ahead if you have anything?
I don't know that I have any questions right now. I know, like, I'm working towards leaving my job, which it's coming, guys. It's coming. My biggest thing is, like, everyone's like, oh, you just got to leap. And I'm like, I am not going to do that. Because I have a family. So, and also, like, I know, Becca, I don't know if you have ever seen my chart. My motivation is fear. So, like, that's a whole weird thing. And, like, not right now, baby. I'm, like, actually literally a restaurant.
No.
So how does that play out for you, Brittany, that fear motivation? How do you feel that?
I think that the transferred motivation of need comes up a lot for me. And I have a hard time getting into fear. I mean, we just have a negative connotation with it, right? So, like, it's hard to, like, shift into, like, it's because to me, the way I, like, kind of understand the fear motivation is it's more of a fear that you're not going to make that impact that you desire, or this fear that you're not going to be able to provide as much change and transformation as you wish you could, or, like, fear. It's almost like fear of missing out, but, like, in a sense of, like, not being able to serve at your highest level. And, like, I get that. I totally get that. Getting that to be, like, a motivative thing, it is a good motivator, but also it's, like, also when you miss that mark or something, like, say, like, you launch something and you miss that mark, it's also, like, a huge downer. And on top of it, emotional authority. So, like, here I am riding waves, like, it's my job. So
yeah, I totally get that. And that it's funny because in the group this week, fear has come up quite a lot, fear of leaving your job and fear of just doing it and just making that leap. And the way it was explained to me when I was kind of going through that transition of leaving my job was that fear will never leave you. Like, that fear is there for a reason. Like, physically, we have that fear for a reason, because it's trying to keep us safe. And I kind of assumed that when I moved out of my job into my business, I wouldn't have that anymore. And man, yes, I do. It's just like it takes a different shape. So I'm kind of learning to kind of look at it and go, okay, yeah, I get it. I get that you're here. I get that you have a job to do, but you're not actually in the driver's seat. But you can come along for the ride, but you're not actually going to steer my decisions. But I get why you're here. And that for me has kind of taken the pressure off it a bit, because sometimes, particularly on socials, people talk about getting rid of the fear, being fearless. Well, we're never really going to be fearless in any situation, particularly not when we're leaving our job. So I just kind of learned to bring it along with me, and it's still here. Like, it just never goes away, but it is a good motivator as well. But it's just a matter of getting it in perspective, I think, and going, yeah, I get it. I get that you're always going to be here, but it's not going to be my compass, like my driving force. That really helped me. Okay. Yushi, did you have any questions, or shall I go? I know you've got to hop off soon, but I'll go through. I have another couple to go through, unless you have anything you want help with.
Well, just quickly, right now, what I'm facing, and I think this is a good topic to bring up now because I'm sure other people are experiencing this, but what I'm facing is, we need you to come back. You're essential. We need you to come back into the office. I and my spirit have made the decision I'm not going back into the office. So now I'm coming up against a wall of come back into the office. And then there's a threat of we've already let people go. So my response was, well, I'm going to say why I can't come in. If that's not accepted, I'm just going to resign. It feels good, but it also is terrifying at the same time because I don't know where the replacement of the income is going to come from, but I feel like I just need to trust and surrender. Easier said than done. Easier said than done. And I always pick the hard route for myself for some reason. So I really want to feel good in this space. I have my date underneath my keyboard, which is my birthday.
Is it really? Oh, wow.
I picked my birthday. I was like,
That's
yeah. So it's just, I'm in a space where it's kind of like, oh man, because I'm in a position where I work from home, I make my own schedule. It's ideal for me to shift over into being an entrepreneur, but now I'm coming against the wall and now the fear is popping up and I'm like, how do I deal with this?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so many women will be in the same position as you. So thank you for sharing that so honestly, because that's going to really help other people too. So I think one of the things to look at is to kind of expand like that what if question we've been talking about this week. What if either my business or a job wasn't the only resource I had? What if income was going and kind of support and resources were going to be provided to me from other avenues of income? And funnily enough, that's the in the membership, I'm running some intensives that are included in the membership, kind of 3 or 4 weeks of really looking at one thing. And that's the very first thing we're going to look at, is that, okay, how can we open ourselves energetically to considering that the universe can support us in other ways? And I feel really confident in teaching this and saying it because I've lived it. Because once you do start to open up and go, okay, well, what if, even though we've been conditioned that either my business or a salary is what's going to support me, what if it wasn't? What if resources come from elsewhere that are really unexpected? And kind of opening that up and understanding those kind of narrow parameters aren't the only way that energy can flow in. And energy is money, right? Same thing. It's just like this ribbon of energy, this ribbon of money. What if I kind of stand back, I focus on the breath journey that I do, for instance, which is incredible. I haven't done one yet, but I'd love to. What if I focus on that and kind of pull my energy back a bit and go, okay, universe, what's going to happen here? How are you going to surprise me? Like, how are these kind of extra rivers of energy going to appear in my reality? Because, and also have a look at, I don't have your chart actually, but in your chart, it will show you whether you're an active or a passive manifester. So if you're a passive manifester, you can sit back and kind of receive and let the universe surprise you, because the manifestations that you ask for, the universe can deliver way more than you ever expected. That's the kind of manifester I am. Or if you're an active manifester, it's more, okay, universe, let's get detailed here. Let's make a list. This is what I want my new reality to look like. And that can include, I would like income from multiple sources. I would like to be surprised by the kind of ribbons of energy that come into my reality. And then that kind of lets go of the need to put all the pressure either on staying where you are for a salary or on your business. Because when I started to do that, all sorts of things started to turn up that surprised me. Affiliate income, collaborations, financial gifts from family, things that I'd never experienced before. But because I was open to receiving them, the universe was able to say, yeah, you've stepped into your vocation. You have such good intentions. You want to raise the vibration of the collective. Here you go. It's okay. And that's all part of breaking out of that kind of 9 to 5 or that working for corporate kind of energy that we get stuck in, that box that we get stuck in. So, but yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because so many people struggle with it. And that's why I've made it one of the first kind of intensive courses that we look at in the membership, because the ways the universe can support us are really surprising. And we also look at the definition in your spleen, like what's that saying? Is it trying to hold on to something out of fear, like that splenic center? Or is it seeing, if you have an open splenic center, it can mean that you're seeing everyone else's fears. That's a very, like where we're open, we see what everybody else experiences. So if you're open there, it could open or undefined, it could be, okay, are these fears mine, or are they fears that I'm picking up from social media, from conditioning, from the collective, because this is what I expected to experience? So is it your fear, or is it collective fear around resources? So these are all kind of things we can unpack once we look at your chart and go, okay, yeah, I understand. And for someone to say, it's really understandable that you would be feeling like this. Look at this area in your chart. This is why it's happening. But I think to make it simple, so I have gate 23 in my throat center. I've got the card here, actually. I try and make everything simple. So to make it as simple as possible, just for now, step back, immerse yourself in your breath work and go, okay, what if some other resources were to appear that could support me in ways that I never expected?
I really like that. I really like that.
Good.
Just listening to this sounds really good. It feels, it sits well in my body.
Good. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. And the breath work helps me to open up to these experiences. It really helps me to place them in, like sit it in my body, because I've been replacing trauma with love.
I love
so
that.
This feels really, really good.
Yeah, I love that. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. You're so welcome. Yeah, just be gentle with yourself, take the pressure off, and just play that what if game.
I like it. I will do that.
Yeah, good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right. Let us move on to the first question. So Annika sent in a question about 2 charts working together. So 2 people's energies working together. Like, how does that actually work? So those are called connection charts. And what I've done is I'm going to share my screen, because I've run a couple of connection charts that will make it clearer to explain. So here we go. All right, so this is a connection chart. So I've chosen Oprah and Mark Zuckerberg. But really, when you're working together with someone, or when you're in a relationship with somebody, or when you're in a coaching relationship with somebody, your energy blends. And you give energy to them, you receive energy from them. And these connection charts can really help you understand where your energy might be compromised, where your energy might be amplified, where you both come together in a really beautiful way. So there is no right or wrong. There is no kind of, oh, look at this person, this is a bad connection, or this doesn't work well. It's really just awareness. And this is really useful when in your business, when you're starting to when you're hiring staff, or you're taking on a freelancer. That's what I do for some of my clients. We run these connection charts between their energy and the people that they're kind of thinking of having work for them. And we can understand why there might be challenges. We can understand what areas might be really beautiful when you work together. So thank you, Annika, for asking that question, because these are really powerful, these connection charts. You can also run a connection chart between yourself and your business. So if you know the time and the date and the place you consider your business to have started, you can run a chart. So that could be the day you took your first payment. That could be the day you registered your domain name, the day you got your first coaching client. And when you run a chart, a connection chart between you and your business, you can see when you're in the container of your business, what you have access to. So what energy you have access to when you're together. You can also do the same for an offer as well. So if you run a chart for an offer, you can see how your energy blends with that offer and what you can, what you're going to experience when you're in that container. So let's just go through these connection charts. So like I said, when Oprah and Mark are together, they're giving and receiving energy from each other all the time. And this is what their connection chart looks like. So we're mainly looking at the channels. We're going to look at the centers and we're going to look at the channels. So if we just talk about channels for a moment, with channels, so this is a channel here, for instance, energy flows backwards and forwards in both directions in these channels. So we've got pressure coming from the head center, which is the pressure center, which pushes energy down towards the throat. And we've got pressure coming from the root center, which pushes up towards the spleen and the sacral and the emotional center. So it's filtered through those centers. And when you come together, you have several different types of connections. So you have compromise channels, dominance channels, friendship channels, and attraction channels. So let's stay on that subject of channels for a moment. So compromise channels, this is where you have half of the channel. So you can see Oprah here has this hanging gate 43 and Mark has the whole channel. So when they come together, this is called a compromise channel. And what this means is that when they're together, Oprah may feel that Mark's kind of overwhelming her in this area, kind of dominating her in this area. And there can almost be a kind of feeling of jealousy, almost like Oprah might be thinking, this is the energy I want, this gate 23, but I don't naturally have it. So I feel dominated here. So this gate 23, which is the one I have in my throat center, is about simplicity. So Oprah might feel that when she's around Mark, she has all these incredible ideas and perspectives in this gate 43, but she finds it difficult to communicate them simply. Whereas Mark has instant access to that energy, that gate of simplicity, Oprah doesn't. So she might feel that her energy is compromised in this area. Not necessarily a good or a bad thing, but just something to be aware of. And while we're on the subject of this 4323, this is also called the Genius to Freak channel. And it's called the Genius to Freak channel. I thought this was really interesting, particularly from Mark Zuckerberg's perspective, because it's the ability to hold unusual perspectives, like perspectives that are outside the norm. But sometimes there's no guarantee that, for instance, Mark is going to be able to communicate those perspectives in a way that will land with people. He'll communicate his perspectives, and it's either people will think he's an absolute genius or people will think he's a freak, depending on how he's communicating that. So this is a really, really interesting channel. So anyone with this channel, speech skills, like learning to communicate, communication skills, and patience in communication are a really beautiful way to support that channel. So I thought that was really interesting for him. But yeah, while they're around each other, Oprah might feel that she's compromised. This being able to communicate simply may be compromised. So that's good for her, good for them both to understand. And then Oprah dominates Mark's energy in three areas: the channel of awareness, the channel of discovery, and the channel of synthesis. So these are all areas where he may feel compromised. This 6124, he only has gate 63. So this is going to be an area of conditioning for him because he doesn't have it, but Oprah does. So those are the kind of differences. When you get in really deep into connection charts, you can have a look and understand, okay, maybe in a relationship, maybe your partner has a defined throat center and you have an undefined throat center. So maybe you feel that when you're together, he has or she has this consistent access to communication and you see it, but you don't necessarily have access to it all the time. That can make you feel compromised. That can be a challenge, or that can be something really beautiful, depending on your approach to it. One of the other things that we can look at is the domination channels. So the dominance channels. So this is where one of you has the whole channel and the other person doesn't have that channel. So they don't have the gates defined at either end. They don't have consistent access to that energy. So here, Oprah's in the orange, the 3457, the channel of power. Very, very powerful gate. So it's responding to this spleen, responding to intuition. That's powerful for Oprah. But Mark doesn't have that 3457. See, he's completely white here. He doesn't have consistent access to that energy. So he may feel, even though they both have these beautifully defined spleens, when they come together, it's even more defined, a very powerful area for them. The spleen is about intuition and just knowing. So Mark's a splenic projector, so his authority is the spleen. He just knows deep down when something's right. He sees a system as a projector. He knows it's right. He may feel when he's around Oprah that her intuition is even more powerful than his. He may feel that that energy for her is very dominant. So that might be kind of conditioning for him, or it may not be, but it's really interesting to look at the interplay. Conversely, Mark has this dominance channel of struggle, the 2838 here, and Oprah doesn't have consistent access to that energy. So really interesting to look at the interplay of energy and why you may feel a certain way when you're around someone. You know how when you're around some people, you can feel a certain way, you can be around other people and feel another way. Well, this is the kind of map of why that happens. Friendship channels, they don't have any. That's not good. That's not bad. It just is. These are channels that flow beautifully together. The energy flows backwards and forwards, and there's no kind of there's no dominance. There's no compromise. They just are. They're beautiful channels too. Now, finally, the attraction channels. These are really fascinating. This is where one person has half the channel and the other person has the other half of the channel. So let's have a look. This 1057. So Mark has half of he has a hanging gate 10. We call this a hanging gate where you have half the channel. And Oprah has the rest of the channel, which is the 57. So the 1057 is here. She has gate 57 is a hanging gate. Mark has gate 10. And wherever you have a hanging gate and you're reaching for energy that you don't have, so Oprah's reaching for this gate 10 that she doesn't naturally have access to, this can be an area of conditioning for both parties, wherever it's reaching towards. Attraction channels are fascinating. They can go one of two ways. They're either butterflies. So, you know, when you meet someone, it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It can be a business relationship or a coaching relationship or a friend or a co-worker, and you get that kind of fizzy energy, that electric kind of butterflies energy. Those are your attraction channels. So it was once described to me as kind of energy coming out of two hoses, and it's kind of meeting in the middle and these sparks are flying. Those are attraction channels. They can be areas of challenge in relationships as well. So it can be butterflies, or it can tip over into areas of conflict in a relationship. So that kind of love-hate scenario. So those are really interesting. So that's a kind of quick trip around the channels for these connection charts. The other thing to look at is the connection theme, 8 to 1, have some fun. So what that means is when Oprah and Mark come together, how many centers do they have defined compared to how many centers do they have undefined? So they have 8 to 1. So they have 8 centers defined when they come together, and they have 1 open as well. So let me just get the definition of the 8 to 1, because I cannot keep all these in my head. There's so many different ones. So when 8 centers are defined and 1 is undefined, there's a lot in common between these two. They have a lot of energy in common. There's where they're open here. So they have these open ego centers. They both have that. That can go one or two ways. It can be a focal point of conditioning, particularly for the ego center is very vulnerable to conditioning. In our society, it's to do with self-worth and self-value, competition, willpower, all those good things. So it can either be something in common for them, so they can either come together over it, or it can be a wedge between them in a relationship. So it can kind of go one or two ways, same as with these attraction channels. So when they come together, for instance, Mark normally has an undefined head center. So he's constantly, he sees all the ideas and may want to take action on them. Whereas when they come together, Oprah's defined head center will have him, he will then have access to the energy that says, okay, I know all the ideas aren't for me. I have consistent access to inspiration, consistent access to ideas. So rather than his head center being all over the place, he will pick up on Oprah's defined head that, okay, I understand. Also, one thing to look for with this compromise channel for them, the 6124, this is about when Mark's around Oprah, she could have him thinking about all sorts of things that don't matter, all sorts of questions. He could go over and over and over and over these questions. So that's one thing to be aware of. So these different centers bring different energies and they play out in different ways. When they come together, they have this incredibly defined throat center. So one thing about Oprah, this undefined throat center means that when she can shift and change her communication style depending on who she's with. So she can make people feel comfortable really quickly. She can put them at ease because she's able to kind of match their communication style. Whereas Mark has a more consistent access to his voice, consistent access to his communication style. He accesses it in the same way. He has consistent access to it. When they come together, their throat center is so defined. So they will be able to communicate messages. They will be able to communicate perspectives, this freak to genius perspective, in a really strong, powerful voice. The G center. So Mark has an undefined G center. So that's a kind of inconsistent access to his self-identity. Not a good thing, not a bad thing. His self-identity is shifted and changed depending on who he's with and depending on the environment that he's in. Whereas Oprah has a very strong sense of self with that defined G center. So when they come together, Mark may well feel that he has a more defined sense of self. In some relationships, that can lead to a bit of codependence, because if Mark's feeling when he's around Oprah's energy, oh, okay, I have consistent access to this, I know who I am, and then she leaves and takes those energetic codes with her, that might be a challenge for him. Again, something really useful to understand when you're in a dynamic that, okay, when I'm around this person, I'm borrowing their energetic codes, I'm borrowing their energy in this area, and when they go, they take it with them. Another thing to look at, these defined spleens. So this is Mark's authority. His spleen is how he makes decisions. When they come together, their spleen is so powerful, like every single gate is defined apart from one. So they will have very consistent access to intuition. They both most likely do business in a very intuitive way. Like they get these intuitive hits. They know deep down instantly when something is right or wrong. They have consistent access to what's healthy for them. They know what's healthy and what's not, and they have a very kind of instinctual connection to their body. If something's just off, they feel it. But it's that intuition more than anything, that intuitive way of doing business, that is really powerful for both of them. Their sacral center. Now this is interesting. So Mark is a non-sacral type. He's a projector, and Oprah is a sacral type. So she's a generator. So when they come together, Mark will have access to Oprah's generator energy. He may feel that he's able to work longer and more consistently because he's kind of picking up on that sacral battery. So it's important for him to know that, and important for Oprah to know that, because when Mark's around Oprah, he'll be able to pick up on those energetic codes and kind of borrow them, same as he does with the G center, same as Oprah borrows these codes from Mark in the throat center. But when she leaves, Mark may get what we call a generator hangover, because he's been kind of trying to process all this sacral energy through his open sacral center. He may be exhausted at the end of the day. So maybe in their working relationship, they come together for a couple of hours and then they spend some time apart. So maybe that's their working pattern, because if he's around her all day, he's going to be absolutely exhausted because his energy isn't designed to work like that. Emotional center is defined when they're together. So Mark will have more consistent access to his emotions, and their root center is more defined. So when they come together, that pressure to grow and evolve and kind of push the boundaries and right timing will be even more amplified for both of them. And interestingly, when they come together, let's backtrack a little bit. These three channels here, running from the root to the sacral, are the format channels. And if you have a format channel defined, this will override everything else in your design, regardless of whatever else is going on. So when they come together, this is one of their attraction channels, this 360. So Oprah has gate 60 and Mark has gate 3. Together, they have this incredible energy for transformation. So that can kind of cause sparks, that can cause butterflies, it can create challenges, but that 360, the channel of mutation, the channel of transformation, is so powerful. I have that in my chart, and that's why a lot of the people that come into my space experience this transformation. Interestingly enough, again, good for them to know, is that the transformation happens in the pauses. So because this is a pressure center, the root center, it pushes pressure up in pulses to the sacral center in this case. And in the rest between the pulses, that's when the transformation happens. Again, good for them to know. Does the transformation happen when they are socializing, rather than working? Does it happen when they're kicking back and having a glass of wine or a cup of coffee? Is that when transformation happens? Really interesting to know. The other thing that we look at is the definition. So they both have, so Mark has a split definition. So let's start there. So the definition is how all your centers are designed to talk to one another. So for Mark, it has his split definition. So is Ajna and his throat center are connected. They're talking to each other. And then he has some splits, these white areas. And then these two centers talk to each other. So the spleen and the root center. That's what we call a split definition. And it can feel like you have two different voices in your energy. This voice is saying this voice is saying that. Oprah has a triple split. So she has 3 areas that are talking to each other. She has a head and her ajna that are connected here. She has her root center and her emotional center. So here's another area. And she has a sacral and the spleen that are talking to each other. Triple splits can feel even more like there's all these different voices in their energy. It can be useful for triple splits or any type of split to be around each other, where they complete each other's definition so they can hear that voice, that kind of single voice more clearly. Even when they come together, they have this split definition. So they don't complete each other's circuitry. So that can be another interesting thing to know. So I hope that answered your question, Annika. So you can have a connection chart between a person, a offer, or a business. You can run a connection chart between you and the daily transits. I tend to do that most days. Let me see if I can show you that. So, let's make this a bit bigger so we can see. Let me just check the chat. Okay, so, it's right up here. Here it is. So if you run your own chart on Genetic Matrix, you can also run it in conjunction with the foundation transit. So the foundation transit is the kind of cosmic weather, what's happening in the planets today. And then you can run a connection chart between the two of you. Really interesting if you run your, well, it's for anything. You run your own business. It's a big day. Maybe you're resigning from your 9 to 5. Maybe you're having a difficult day and you're not sure why. This can give you some clues. So let's run the foundation transit chart between Oprah and this. So this is Oprah in today's transits. So the transit energy, the kind of cosmic weather, what's happening with the planets is in purple. So let's see what this does for Oprah. First of all, so Oprah's energy is green, so it completes this channel here, the 3536. So she may feel, this is also called the channel of kind of the drama queen. So the gate of crisis has a way to voice itself. This gate of crisis here has a way to kind of express itself. So this is also known as the drama queen channel. So she already has this emotional wave here, the 1949, and then she has another emotional wave here, this kind of drama queen. So if she's feeling extra emotional today, she doesn't know why, this is most likely why. Really good to know. So what else she has? There is a, what else? It gives her this hanging gate here, hanging gate 9. So this can be an area of conditioning because she doesn't naturally have gate 9. So that's another thing to look at. It gives her a very defined throat center. So that's interesting, where this area, this undefined area here, this undefined area here, when it comes together today, it gives her very consistent access to a communication style. So whereas she normally shifts and changes depending on who she's with, today it's a very, very specific communication style, very consistent. Again, good for her to know. If you have a challenging meeting or you need to have a conversation with somebody that you need this consistent communication for, or maybe you're talking, maybe it's TED Talk day, or maybe it's podcast day, or whatever it is, she will know that she has consistent access to that energy today. So really interesting to run your foundation chart. All right, so we have a few minutes left, so I'm going to answer Lilith's question next. So Lilith's question was about manifesting. So she said, I understand some of the manifestation in my chart. I understand kind of my manifesting style, but which is active, by the way. She's a specific manifester. She's a passive manifester and a specific manifester, which seem like two totally opposing energies, but we can go into that on another call if that's something you want to talk about. So she really wanted to talk about the gates in her G center and how they are related to manifestation. Really interesting question. So where you have defined gates in your G center, whether your G center is defined or undefined, where you have red gates, in manifestation terms, these are what we call abundance keys. And abundance keys are where you can support your energy even more to make yourself more magnetic and kind of immerse yourself in those energies. And they help you understand how you attract abundance. So Lilith has gate 7 and gate 2 are her abundance keys. So let's have a look at what that actually means in practice. All right, so gate 7, where you have gate 7 defined, this is a really powerful abundance key. It's the gate of leadership, so it's a leadership energy. And it's, so what I would encourage Lilith to do is accept if she finds herself in a leadership position, she's naturally born into that's natural energy for her. So she should immerse herself in it. I don't like using the word should with human design because it's not meant to be dictatorial. It's meant to be experimental. So let's backtrack a bit. It's really easy to use those kind of conditioned words of should. I would encourage you, Lilith, to get curious about your leadership energy, to get curious about immersing yourself in your leadership energy. This leadership energy isn't a manipulative energy. It's a collaborative energy. So rather than dictating rules for other people to follow, Lilith is encouraging people to come together. She's encouraging collaboration, and then she's immersing herself in her natural leadership energy to kind of foster it and help it come to fruition. I'm just hesitating because I thought, oh no, that's fine. That's fine. Ignore me. I thought we were back on Oprah there for a minute. So Lilith, I would encourage you to trust that you are leading people in the right way, in a really impactful and empowering and powerful way. It's not a dictatorial leadership energy. And when you lead in this energy, this positive, impactful, powerful way, and when it's collaborative leadership, then you will most likely bring about positive change. So this is one of your abundance keys. This is one of the keys that will help. The universe will kind of leap to your support. When you immerse yourself in this abundance key, it will say, okay, all right, here are the resources to support you in that. Here's the abundance in all areas that you need to step into this leadership energy. It's a really beautiful energy. The other gate is gate 2. So gate 2, this is very feminine energy. So gate 1 in the G center is this creative masculine energy, and opposite in the G center is the gate 2, this feminine, receptive, flowy energy. So what I would encourage you to do, Lilith, is immerse yourself in this receptive feminine energy without getting lost in it. It's very easy because it feels so good to kind of get lost in it, and we're going with the flow to the point where it can kind of overwhelm us and we can't see the way out. So I would encourage you to relax into it, that receiving, that relaxing energy, but just recognize it and don't kind of get lost in it. You don't want to immerse yourself in it so completely that you lose your way, but you want to signal to the universe, yes, I'm embracing this leadership energy in my gate 7, and I'm kind of balancing that with my receptive energy in my abundance key 2, my gate 2. Whenever you're tempted to work on your feminine energy, take a pause and take a breath, because as soon as you start to work on it, you're signaling to the universe that there's a lack there. I'm having to work on it because I don't naturally have it, but you do. So you don't have to work on it. It just is. There should be, I encourage you to have some awareness around not getting lost in it, but you can relax into it, because as soon as you work on it, you're signaling the lack of it. So those are your abundance keys. There are obviously a lot more, and we can go into those in another call, or we can go into those in the membership. So I'm kind of really guided by you, but great question, Lilith, abundance keys. And also, some people have questions around being undefined in the G center or open. Does this mean that I'm not magnetic? Absolutely not. We're all magnetic. That's how we pull life to us. That's how we You know, you're an emotional, you're managing, you know, that's your magnetism, is how you pull things to you to respond to. So absolutely not. Focus on those abundance keys and increasing your magnetism in those keys, but you naturally have magnetism. So I hope that helped everybody. We have 2 more weeks of calls until Boundless membership opens on the 22nd of July. So this intake, we only open twice a year. It will be open from the 22nd to the 25th of July, and then we'll be closing again until the next intake. And I have lots of incredible things planned for you. I know some of you have already said that, yes, you're interested and you're joining us. So I'm so thrilled about that. So I hope this answered everybody's questions, and I will see you same time, same place next week.